What is up, responsible day traders? It is Sunday, April 10th, 2022. It's about 8 p.m. I will finish this video in the morning, and it will be as the day kicks off, and we'll just kind of see if things are still going about the same or if there's been some big shifts made in the market. So only time will tell. It's just a little bit easier for me to knock this out, and that way my Monday mornings aren't so rushed. I am taking on more and more, and I'm okay with it, just as long as I make room for everything, right? So we do have Easter holiday coming up. So that means the markets are going to be closed for Good Friday. So Thursday when the markets close, it's not reopening until Sunday night. So Sunday night, you'll see that reopen at, it's 5 p.m. Central Time that opens for us, and we'll get back to business as usual. So it is Easter weekend. Things will shut down a little bit early. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a little peek at the news and what we got going on there. All right, so let's go ahead, head on over to the news. We want to go to the news button, drop down. We'll go to market news. And here we can see we have something on Tuesday, pre-market. We've got pre-market on Wednesday at 9:30. We have some crude oil inventories coming out 9:30. So that's an hour after the market opens. Otherwise, Thursday, it's all pre-market as well. So not a lot of market movers while the market's running. And then obviously holiday all day Friday. All right. So let's go ahead and see what the market's got in store for us. Y'all, this right here is my daily chart. And you can see a couple other charts running in the background, but we're just looking at this daily chart right here. Now, I drew this box around this area on Monday last week saying if we pulled back to an area, this would be where we would anticipate it. And you could see that it pulled back right to that spot, touched it, and it's been hanging out there really. We haven't come back to it. Now you can see when this pulled back into the EMAs, we've also not crossed that bottom Bollinger Band just yet. So we have a little bit of a what's going to happen here. Right now, we do have a lower pivot happening right here than this previous pivot, correct? But if these EMAs hold out and we do roll at this bottom Bollinger Band and pop back up, then we'll expect this to come back up a little bit higher, at least towards this previous area, if not higher. It is an area that can create a bounce. It's an area that we expect to push up, especially being so far above the zero line and so far above that Bollinger Band. Now, we do have a little bit of angle down to the downside here. So we may see it pop back through, move back to the other side, and continue down. And I mean, we've got some angle down in the BBs, but we haven't crossed the bottom Bollinger Band. I'm just looking at like traditionally what's happened with the BBs. Every time we've gotten this nice big strong push up, we haven't really followed through and continued back to the upside. But really for me, what I want to see to anticipate this to go down, to actually continue down, is something more along the lines of this. Something like some divergence with the MACDs leading a lot lower, kind of like we saw through here, tiny little bar, push down. So I don't want to really just depend on this push down alone to tell me that it's going to push through and create a move to the downside. I really would like to see it come back up, create some divergence, and then push down. But even at that point, if it comes back up strong enough, we'll just go with the flow at that time, right? Let's go ahead and move down to the next chart. So we just have the daily chart. Let's go to the 28,657, which we can see right here. So the 28,657, well, I mean, we haven't had much movement happen since the days kicked off, to be honest with you. We just had one big bar here, pretty much more than anything, that has moved everything to the downside. We had divergence happen right here as the price had pulled back up to that equal pivot point and it pushed down. Now we've also had divergences to the upside, saying more up. And we've had a little bit of a hard time getting the MACDs back down around this major low that happened back here. But what we're looking at is, are we going to anticipate this area to hold, push back up? If I'm looking at the 28,657, it looks like it might try to open back up to the downside and push down a little bit further. For me to feel really convinced that it's going to go further, we're going to have to push down here and then even start pushing down past this area, pull back into it and push down. So that area of the EMAs on the daily chart. But this is also a giant chart. So this is a whole lot of movement. You can see right here, it's 44.90 up here at the top of that EMA. The bottom of this bar is at 44.70. So that's 20 points in between, which gives us a lot of opportunities to take moves to the upside and to the downside, depending on what it chooses to do on these bigger charts. So let's come down to our immediate charts. We're looking here at the 10,946 right now. And what's happening on the 10,946 is a really, really interesting look. You can see right here, we've had this area hold several times in the MACDs. We had a nice little push through it. We pushed down in the price and the MACDs made a lower pivot. We came back down to that area and look what is happening with the MACDs right now. It's trying to push off of that area, which is a pretty decent indication that even though those bigger tick charts, and I'll come back to the 28,657, even though this bigger tick chart looks like it's trying to open up to the downside, we've got some support here. I was going to say resistance, but resistance in the way that it's holding it up. It's keeping it from really, really pushing down. The MACDs are outside of the Bollinger Bands there, and if they really start to pull away, maybe we'll see that keep pushing down. But if we're looking at our immediate tick charts, it's struggling to really go down at this point. We're making a nice strong V pivot back to the upside so far in the price on the 1597. I'm laughing because we're so far down here below the zero line that typically you look at that as a continuation of a move to the downside. But you can see we have pretty much reached the extent of where our MACDs go in the ways of expecting this to really push much further. So that typically means we see a nice big move back to the upside. And I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. But, if we're looking at what the price and the MACDs are telling us right now, we are below the EMAs, below the zero line in both the 10,946 and the 1597. We still have direction to the downside on the 233 even. So to take a long right here, right now would not be the smart move to take. It would have had to been something that was taken from way down here, which is a 10, 12 point difference from where we currently are. So taking any kind of long right now would definitely put you at a point where you'd have a lot of risk on the move, to have your risk in the proper place, or at the very least something like right in here. Or if you were taking it on the way up, you would be moving it up as we were pulling into areas that could possibly push it down. So it is definitely a game all day of, what is it telling me right now? I don't trade these giant charts, right? I'm not trading the daily chart. I'm not trading the 28,657. I'm just looking at what is it telling me right now? I'm at an area that is held. I'm at areas that can create a bounce. I'm way above the zero line. So we could possibly see this move back up. Just watching it as it's pulled in here, EMAs are flat. So that means that they could easily be violated to the downside. And as I said, all of our charts right now, every single one of them, except for the daily chart, are all telling us right now that we are below the zero lines. We're below EMAs, we're below the EMA here. We're below the zero lines here. So technically the direction is to the downside. But if we're looking for overalls and we want to see the potential for this to push back up, we've pulled down here, we've held up. The MACDs have led much, much higher, and we're not getting anywhere closer to being able to break through the area that told us that we were going to get the bounce up. So right now, the direction, everything is down. My anticipations are to see this and at least make a strong attempt to move back to the upside. I guess we'll see in the morning if I'm right or if I'm wrong. It's 8:19, so I'm just going to let it do its thing overnight. Obviously, it's moving extremely slow. It's been open for a couple of hours. These are all the bars that we've seen so far. So basically on our 10-946, we're in the middle. We're starting to create our fourth bar for things. So, you don't want to try and make the grass grow, nor do you want to watch it grow. So let it grow, come back later when it's time, and then mow that sucker down. So, all right, guys, I guess we'll catch up with this in the morning. All right, folks, good morning. It's Monday, April 11th, 2022. So let's see if anything's changed. Now, we are still sitting at the EMA right here. The BBs are still pushing down towards the bottom Bollinger Band, and we're kind of in the same spot. If we look here, you can see that first bar had gone down to right here. We did pull down just a little bit lower. We haven't exceeded this previous area. MACDs are still leading higher in the 28,657. If you can't tell, obviously my mind is set to, I'm anticipating this to go up eventually. But with everything that we see, with the EMAs rolling over, with the pullbacks into the area, with the MACDs outside, everything is still poised to go to the downside. Even if I come and look at the 10-946, you can see the EMAs are starting to open up to the downside. We're pulling up to that top Bollinger Band. So, either we're going to roll off of it and push down, or we're going to push through it to the upside. And really everything's trying to give the look like roll off it and push down. Now, with that being said, I do have retracement divergence, or actually divergence between the pivots here, and some retracement divergence between the pivots here. So it's kind of like that. It's like an indecision moment where it's stuck between that area of the EMA, which is where we see this box back here. And we're stuck between the areas of, we're stuck between the areas of the daily EMA, which we can see in the box here, and the EMAs of the 10-946, the 1597, and the 28,657 here that are saying more to the downside. Now, we'd really have to see these MACDs take a shift and push to the upside to really say that this is going to sit here, that it's not going to push down past this area. My personal thought process is that it holds out here and it pushes up. But that's probably me just wanting the market to move to the upside. Everything right now is pointing down. I was even listening to what I was saying last night, and I think I was trying to justify the reasons I was thinking of the longs, because we had space to run back to EMAs at that time. And we're just sitting at that EMA on the daily chart. And I think that's what really tells me, like, the anticipations are to go up, but until we see it happening, until we see it starting to really give the signals, if we try and force this market to the upside, we'll find ourselves getting our booties handed to us, because that's the way it goes. All right, folks, that's going to wrap that up. I hope that everybody has a wonderful week. Remember, this is a short week. No market open on Friday. We have no school on Monday, so Friday and Monday are a holiday for us here. So it's going to be a long, extended weekend for all of us here. But, I hope it's a wonderful time for y'all. And if you have questions, definitely let us know. And as always, that I'm looking forward to catching you on the profitable side.